Okay, let's just dive right in. Today we're talking about a headline that sounds like it was ripped straight out of a sci-fi novel. A $1.25 trillion bet to move the entire future of AI into outer space.
And no, that is not a typo. $1.25 trillion. I mean, it's a number so big it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. And what it represents? Well, it would be the single largest corporate merger in all of history, period.
So who's behind this massive deal? You've got two absolute giants at the center of it all. SpaceX, you know them, the undisputed leader in space launch, and xAI, one of the fastest growing AI companies on the planet. Let's really dig into what this historic merger is all about. All right, first things first, let's talk about the deal itself. This is that trillion-dollar handshake that could, and I mean really could, reshape the future of technology as we know it. So here are the nuts and bolts. The whole thing was announced on February 2nd, 2026. It's an all-stock acquisition. And the valuations? Just wow. SpaceX is valued at a cool $1 trillion, with xAI coming in at $250 billion. And their shared goal? It's huge. They want to build massive data centers for AI, but not here on Earth, in orbit. Okay, so that immediately brings up the biggest question of all, right? Why on Earth would you do this? Why space? Well, it all comes down to solving a huge looming crisis right here on the ground. AI's absolutely insatiable appetite for energy.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The main reason was laid out pretty bluntly by Musk himself. He said, and I quote, "Global electricity demand for AI simply cannot be met with terrestrial solutions. In the long term, space-based AI is obviously the only way to scale." I mean, talk about a bold claim, right? But it gets right to the heart of the problem they're trying to solve.
To put it simply, AI is just incredibly power hungry. The data centers we have on Earth right now, they just gobble up astonishing amounts of electricity for processing and for cooling. And it's straining our global power grids to the absolute breaking point. So this merger, it's being sold as the only real long-term solution.
So what's so great about orbit anyway? Well, it turns out there are 4 huge advantages. First up, you've got solar power. With near constant sunlight, you can get up to 8 times more energy than you can down here. Second, cooling. The vacuum of space, it's a perfect and totally free coolant. Third is scalability. I mean, you have basically unlimited room to expand up there. And finally, you're totally independent from Earth's already overstressed power grids. Game changer.
And the sheer scale of this vision, it is just staggering. The plan is to use Starship to launch up to, wait for it, 1 million satellite data centers. Yes, you heard that right, 1 million. It's the kind of plan that you can only even dream of, because one company happens to control the rockets needed to pull it off. But here's the thing, is this a genuinely brilliant idea, or is it just a billionaire's folly? We have to flip the coin and look at the other side, because the challenges standing in the way of this, they are monumental, and they are very, very real. You know, the whole debate really boils down to this. On one side, you've got supporters who are all about the unlimited energy, the free cooling, and the fact that launch costs are dropping. But on the other side, critics are waving some huge red flags. We're talking about massive problems like managing heat, dealing with radiation, the unavoidable delay because of the speed of light, and that's not even getting into space debris and maintenance.
And just to put that power challenge into perspective for you, think about this. The entire International Space Station, the ISS, generates about 215 kilowatts of power, okay? Now, a single modern AI data center can demand over 100 megawatts. That is an absolutely colossal energy gap. It's a chasm that somehow has to be bridged for any of this to even have a chance of working. Then there's the whole latency issue, the time delay. One industry expert put it so bluntly, I have to share it. They said, putting the servers in orbit is a stupid idea unless your customers are also in orbit. And that just perfectly highlights the problem, right? For any real-time AI application, that tiny, tiny delay as the signal travels from space to the ground, it could be a complete deal breaker.
And look, the engineering hurdles are they're immense. We're talking about needing radiators that are bigger than tennis courts just to keep the processors from melting. We're talking about using commercial GPUs that were never ever designed for the harsh radiation of space. The plan would basically create disposable data centers with like a 5-year lifespan. And this all hinges on Starship, a rocket that's still very much in its testing phase.
So, okay, what does a merger like this mean for everyone else? Well, it basically kicks off a brand new space race. It completely redraws the competitive map.
The key idea you really need to grasp here is something called vertical integration. It just means a company owns its entire supply chain, from top to bottom. And in this case, the new company would control everything, from the rockets that launch to the satellites in orbit, all the way to the AI models and the data itself. That is an incredibly powerful place to be.
And their advantage becomes crystal clear when you just look at the scorecard. This new combined company, they score high across the board. Launch capability, check. Advanced AI, check. Orbital infrastructure, double check. Now look at the competition. Amazon, Google, even China. They all have these major gaps in what they can do. Right now, there is literally no one else who can match this setup.
So, what does this all mean for our future? Could this whole thing actually reboot? Well, everything? Let's walk through 4 possible outcomes of this absolutely massive bet. All right, so analysts have actually broken down the probabilities. They're giving it a 40% chance of what they call partial success, where it finds a specific use but doesn't take over the world. There's a 30% shot at a true breakthrough success, something that completely changes the game. But then there's also a 20% chance of just total technical failure, and a 10% chance that regulators just step in and say, nope, not happening. When you boil it all down, what's really at stake here is nothing less than control over the physical infrastructure for artificial intelligence. And that is, without a doubt, the most important technology of the 21st century.
So yeah, this merger really does represent a brand new chapter. And not just for AI, but for the industrialization of space itself. It's where 2 of the most powerful forces shaping our world today finally collide.
And all of this leaves us with one final massive question to think about. Is the next great technological revolution going to be built down here, on Earth, or will it be built up there, above it?